then he is like not good at it. It's just like a few select times.
Where he was like hard to or difficult to control?
Yeah, it's like I've just like lost him.
Sure.
And it's almost like the collar like wasn't on or something.
So, not uncommon.
Okay.
So, that's why so looking at Ziggy, you know, someone would look at him, they're like, oh, he's so sweet and he's so friendly and stuff. Like he wouldn't, why would he need so much power? Because you have the big boy collar. And it's because when a dog goes into drive, the mental state can override the stim. So, so going to 90, right? Not the first time I've heard that, not going to be the last time. I keep going up. Okay, because if you're at 90 and he's still going for the stick, he's just overriding.
Yeah.
Okay, he's just like, I want this so much, or the way he's pulling could like potentially move the collar or pull the skin away, so that's another factor as well. So I just keep going up. Then if you end up at like 127 and you see this happening and he's still going for it, then I go, okay, he's overriding the collar, okay, which can happen. And you're like, but it's just a stick. I'm like, yep, but that's just how dogs work. So here, what I would do is create a controlled context, okay? So let's say I know his weakness is sticks. I go to the park, I grab a stick, get him to really be interested in it, throw it on the ground as I shorten my leash. He goes, you know, you do the same thing, and maybe you hit 100, and he finally backs off, right? Then I pick up the stick again, and I wave it, and I throw it. He goes, and I correct him again, right? So you're doing controlled context. So when you're actually in an uncontrolled context, when he feels the collar, he's gonna relate it to 100. He's gonna think, oh, it will go there, so he should respond more easily. Does that make sense? So I do this like with reactivity. It's like, so for my clients, like if they come across a dog behind a fence, I'll tell them, you know, use that to your advantage because it's controlled context. So it's the same thing, it's reactivity, right? Because then once they get that down, when they see a dog and their dog becomes reactive, it's the same behavior, it's just a different dog.
Yeah.
So now when they go to correct the dog, they go like, oh, this is like at the fence.
Yeah.
And they settle down faster,
Yeah.
okay? So let's say with like the dog stuff, like certain times he passes dogs, he's fine.
It's whenever like another dog engages, like wants to play, is like wagging his tail, is trying to come over, and I'm the person that's like, oh, he's training, keep going.
Sure.
But I kind of just lose him.
So go ahead and pop him in a heel here.
Yep.
Thank you. And I want you just to ignore him. Don't worry about correcting behavior right now. Okay, I just want to get a feel for what he's doing here. Yeah, so just walk by, don't worry about correcting him. Okay, go ahead and turn. And walk really close, okay, but don't correct them. Yeah, just keep going. Okay, so I'm gonna assume that this is like a mild interest as opposed to like if a dog's like pulling at him.
Yeah.
Okay, so here, if you look at Ziggy, right? If you look at his demeanor, he's kind of restrained interest, right?
And it's something that dog is not showing really like
crazy
interest in him.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna keep walking. We're just gonna ignore him. I want him to be as loose as possible, so that this way he's more likely to, Yeah, bring Moose. And take off her cone. So he's more likely to make the mistake. Moose here, she's super dog friendly. She's very jumpy, so I hope she'll pique his interest. Alrighty, so here, Moose here is super social. Oh, come on. All right, and go ahead and turn. We're gonna ignore this, just a little more. Okay, so is this more of what you see?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what you're gonna do here is when you get this, you don't wanna restrain.
Okay.
You wanna anchor, okay, so that's fine. So what you're gonna do is like that, and start tapping. Tap, 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 and just start bumping it up. Tap, 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 yep, bump it up, tap, 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 bump it up, tap, tap, tap. Keep going, tap, tap, bump it up, tap. A little bit of a leash pull towards into you. Tip, tip, tip. Good, right there. And then relax completely. Good. Tip, 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 tip. What's your number now?
63.
Bump it up. Tip, tip. Bump it up. Tip, tip, tip. Bump it up. Tip, tip. Yep, keep bumping. Tip. I can see he feels it. Right there. Go ahead and take a step back. Good. What's your number now?
85.
85. Okay. Tip, tip, tip. Right there. Good. Right. Wait a second. Tip. Good. So 85, right? But what we did right there was when you pull back, you incentivize. So you're telling them go, and remote is saying no. So now you have conflicting messages, right? Because that's typical.
Pull back. Why does he think that's a no?
No.
I mean, I'm sorry. Why does he think that's a go?
It's called when dogs feel pressure, they want to go against it.
Okay, got it.
So, but it amplifies reactivity, excitement, nervousness, fear. Whenever a dog goes into that state, when you pull them back, it drives them even more. So what I do is anchor. Okay, I just anchor. So I'm not putting any more tension on him. It's all coming from him. So once you hit the appropriate number, he's gonna start backing off. But if you're pulling him back, he's gonna back off into more tension. So you're just constantly holding him back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so just let him go. Stay in place. And then just keep. Do I want to start at like an 85 or do I just keep going?
I would just keep going up, right? So like, right, so here, because I've done this for so long, and go ahead and give a tap. I've done this you're not gonna kill him. He's not gonna start bleeding. It's not gonna puncture his neck. It's just a contraction, right? Is because I know that and I'm very comfortable with that, I amp up really quickly. So that took you maybe like a minute, right? But once you get used to it, you're just like tap, tap, bump, tap, tap, bump. You know, you're just going real quick, and all of a sudden, within 5 seconds, he's like this.
Yeah.
Okay? Because now we already had, you told me 90, and he didn't back off a stick, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. Like I know I can go up there, and I'm not going to catch him off guard.
Yeah.
So right now we're at 85, and he's feeling it because I can see his neck twitch, but he's not like, bop, 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 right?
Yeah.
And you can tell when you're hitting the right number because you start to see him back off away from Moose here, right? So that's what I'm watching for. So what you've just told Ziggy is, hey, you can try to do it, but this is gonna happen until you back off, right? So there's two things here. We have behavior and obedience. Obedience is preventative control, right? So like if he's doing really well, awesome. But then sometimes, like if the dog shows interest, that overrides the obedience. So then for some dogs, they'll bypass the obedience and they'll keep pulling and you can keep turning around and stuff, but it's a different conversation. That conversation is, hey, you're going the wrong way, I'm going this way. But if he wants to keep going that way, he's gonna keep doing it. So that's behavior mode. He's saying, I'd rather much do this than follow you. So then I allow the dog to perform the behavior and correct them on the collar until he backs off. So he's going, oh, I tried to do what I wanted, but it was not pleasant. Does that make sense? Tip, tip, tip. Right, so go up higher. Tip. Good. Go ahead and take a step back. Right there, good. So now he's moving away from her. Okay, and this is not gonna make him not like her. Okay, he's just learning, oh, I don't go to Moose, I move away from Moose, and if you said break, then he could go forward. Okay, give a tap here. Tap. Good, go ahead and take a step back, just so you're next to him. Good. That's okay. Tap. Tap. Good. And his tail's still wagging. Tap. Good. And technically, he can do a sniff.
Okay.
Tap. Right? Tap. 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 There you go. And he'll pivot so he's on your left there. There you go. So here, technically, he can sniff her because he's keeping his butt down.
Yeah.
You see that?
Yeah.
Good. So if I pull her away, he shouldn't pursue.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is all no words because you've just simply told him, there we go. Tap. Right? Is just keep your butt down, right? So we're using that as a reference point. for Ziggy here, okay? To make it clearer for you as well, I don't really care about the sit, I care about the disinterest.
Yeah.
But it's easier for the average dog owner to have a picture of what is my dog supposed to do. You know, because earlier when he was standing, like in front of you, technically that's okay. But that's more likely to end up into movement because he's already standing. Here, when he's got his butt down, he's got to build up to movement, right?
Yeah.
So it's easier for dog owners to kind of recognize, oh, all I got to do is keep his butt down, right? But then it's being very consistent. What's your number now? 92. And I can tell you can still go higher,
Yeah.
okay? Because he's still willing to gamble.
Yeah.
He's still willing to get up, right? So go ahead and bump it a little bit more. Girl. Try it again. Tap. 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 Okay. Lightly up on your leash here. There you go. Good. That's okay. This is technically okay. Tap. And then bring him in. Good. Lightly up on your leash. There you go. Good. He puts himself down, right? Good. So like when you start to see him move away, people get concerned like, oh, like is he not going to like the dog? And it's just because he's trying to feel for what's causing the remote to happen. And it's actually not Moose. It's what is he doing? It's when he's getting up, right? So I bring her back into his space. He's like, oh, like let me move away from her, but he got tapped again. Put his butt back down, the tapping stopped, and then he goes, oh, well, Moose came back in again. I got up, I got tapped, I put my butt down and went away. Moose came back, I kept my butt down, nothing happened. Okay, so dogs need to make mistakes and then tap, be corrected for it, tap, in order to understand or learn what it is that they're doing wrong. Okay, and it's repetition. So like, if I brought Moose in and we only tapped him until he backed off, he wouldn't have learned it was his behavior, not her. Because he's thinking, last thing I remember is moving away from her and it stopped. So we keep repeating and I'm like, no, it's not Moose. And it's not her energy. It's when you get too excited and greet her without permission.
I see. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Tap, 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 tap. Go ahead and bump it. Tap. Right there. Okay, what's your number now? 108. Okay. So, and then that's the other thing is like you can see, like right there, if he was really like, oh my God, this is like so punishing, he wouldn't have even done that. Does that make sense? So one thing you can do is, if you're still having like that kind of residual issue, is you can pair this with a prong collar. Okay, the prong collar will help you when that happens. When he pulls, it gives you more leverage. So you can kick in with this and get him to go under control faster. Because with the flat collar, it's going to work more to his benefit because it's a blunt surface. Whereas with the prong, and it gives you very little physical control. And then the prong gives you, it's like power steering. It's how a lot of trainers dub it. So like when I work with Great Danes, like I had a lady, she was like this tall with a 150-pound Great Dane. She did prong and e-collar because she needed as much leverage as possible.
Yeah, honestly, that's not a good idea. He's just getting so strong that when that does happen, it's like trying to like...
It's difficult,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, you would put it on where his e-collar is.
Yeah.
That's actually where tap, 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 tap. Right, bump it. Right.
See, like, that's so crazy to me. It's just like,
Yeah, but you know, it's dogs are physical animals. You know, so that's why like prong alone, you would be stuck because it's the same kind of concept because he can take so much and you can only do so much. Whereas here, and it could be his neck, and I'll take a look at it as well. But this is not. I mean, it's uncommon, but this is not out the ordinary. Like this is the stuff that people don't think about. You know, until you see it, you're like, holy crap! My dog's at 108 and he's not responding, he's not yelping.
Yeah, that's the only thing. It's like he obviously is fine. I'm kind of like, this is crazy that like he's still not.
It's the drive. It's his intention to want to play is greater than that. You know, and that's why dogs bite each other. You know, and this will never match a dog bite. It can get as close to a dog bite as possible without the harm of it. You know. But this like stuff, it happens. Okay? But does that make more sense now?